Welcome to Moving Panels, Ignite the Mic. From Gotham's alleys to galaxy's far, we dive in deep, we set the bar. Debates and takes, we bring the heat. Pull up a chair, join a seat. Moving Panels, where fandom takes flight. We review, discuss, and shed the light. Heroes, villains, every epic night. This is your show, your fandom's might.
Welcome to this Moving Panels one-shot. Let's have a nerdy little conversation. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This is our episode on Thanksgiving week, and I thought that we would do something a little different, and I've got Blake Fowler with me, and we are going to share some of the comic book characters that we are thankful for. Welcome, Blake. How are you?
Laramy, I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about all the things I'm thankful for, but first and foremost, thankful for you and this podcast and our friendship.
So sweet.
It's always fun to come on, and I'm excited to briefly talk about some of those comic book characters we're thankful for.
Yeah, and you know, I'm talking about characters that may not be the characters that I'm reading all their comics, but more just characters that I think shape me, shape my life. You know, whether they're part of my fandom, part of my childhood, part of my connection with others. It's, you know, again, it's the reason why I do this podcast. And so I thought I would share that. And I'll just, go right with it. Let's just jump in. Let's start with the obvious one. Everyone knows me, knows I'm a huge Superman fan. I won't spend a lot of time on this. There is actually a one-shot from way back at the beginning of Moving Panels where I actually talked about why I love Superman so much. But I will reiterate, he's not just my favorite character. He's one of the foundations of the way that I view, like, heroism, the way I view humanity. I'm thankful for Superman because at his core, he is hope. He's not perfection, as some people put on him. He's not invincibility, as people put on him. He is the idea that strength is meant to lift others up, not put them down. And I appreciate the way that as Clark Kent, he is embracing humanity. Like the new movie kind of talked about, he could very easily rule the world.
Sure.
But he instead just decides to be a regular guy with a regular job and just tries to be the best person that he can be, do what he can for other people. And that message has stuck with me since I was a kid watching Super Friends and, Lois and Clark with Dean Cain, into Smallville, of course, the Christopher Reeve movies and all that. So yeah, just right off the bat, obviously I'm thankful for Superman and everything he stands for. So how about you, Blake?
Well, if we're going to do obvious, let's go and get the obvious out of the way. Super thankful for Green Lantern. No, I'm just kidding. If you have listened to any single episode with me in it, thankful for Batman, for Bruce Wayne, for Bill Finger and Bob Kane for creating such an iconic character, and a character that for me has its roots in Saturday morning cartoons. Waking up and watching Batman the Animated Series and just remembering thinking, he's just a regular guy, and he decided to do something about the injustices and the wrongs that he saw in the world. And then advancing to as I got older, and I still remember when the Dark Knight came out back in 2008, I believe. My parents were going through a separation, and I think I went to the theater and saw that probably 4 times because it was like an escape for me. It was a chance to step out of reality and have a moment where, I didn't have to worry about what all was going on. And Batman provided that. Batman still provides that, whether it's through comic books or TV shows or movies. Like, I think I'm most thankful for him because he is an escape pod. He's a way out of things that are going on. And I aspire to do the good that Batman and Bruce Wayne, to a degree, do in the world, and just hopefully can live up to that self-expectation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that when someone truly gets into comics. Like they find that character that just speaks to them
Mm-hmm.
on so many levels. But then there's also the characters that help establish us as fans. And so that's why the next on my list is I'm thankful for Daredevil.
Yeah.
Because he was the first comic that I ever read. I've talked about
Wow.
that on this. And finding out as someone just discovering comics. Yes, I had watched, again, Super Friends, and I know they're not really comics, but things like He-Man and, all of that. But to actually get a hold of a comic, a Marvel comic, with a character like Daredevil, and realizing that it's more than just the colorful costumes and the good guys and the bad guys, but that there can be emotion and grit and drama, and the characters can have all of this deep personal stuff that you relate to. And that, really got me into it. And I'm not going to say the Daredevil comic that I read was the greatest.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Because it was even a one-off villain in the episode or the issue that I picked up. But I later got into other things, and the villain, the Rose, was another big connection with Daredevil that I had. And then I started getting into the X-Men, and I started getting into all the other comics. And so I'm thankful for Daredevil for starting me on this journey that even here now as a 44-year-old man, I still love this medium and everything about it. And that's what, again, brought me to doing this podcast for now 6 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's strange. And we didn't talk about the order we were going to go in before we started recording, or who we were going to talk about. So it's odd, coincidental that you're going to talk about the character that got you into comic book characters and comics, because my next person is the character that got me into reading comics. I'm relatively new to the game. I would go to the store when I was a kid and buy like one single issue in the middle of a run. You had no idea what was going on, but you just read it anyways. But then when I moved to Beaufort, South Carolina, I got into a comic called American Vampire. And Skinner Sweet is the main character in American Vampire. And Scott Snyder is the writer of that. And I just remember thinking, a horror comic book character that is so fleshed out and so much minutia in why he does what he does and who he is. And it's also a comic book that goes throughout many different decades and talks about all kinds of different points in history. And it's the comic book that introduced me to Scott Snyder, who ended up writing the New 52 Batman. And I picked that up and was all from there as far as comic books go. So Skinner Sweet, American Vampire, a great story and a great anti-hero, almost villain-like character.
Yeah, it's crazy that there are sometimes just these really obscure references that people have to nostalgia of these characters and all. And not saying that mine is obscure, but honestly, if I really go back, like other than, Christopher Reeve's Superman and watching Super Friends, the Saturday morning cartoons and all that, I think it was when I went to the movies, or not even just went, but, when you go to Blockbuster and rent the movie, seeing these larger than life characters, and some of them that I didn't even know at the time were comic book characters. So like Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Dick Tracy, I feel like he came along at just the right time in my childhood. The movie came out in 1990. I was 9 at the time, and just the color, the style, the music, it was like unlike anything I had ever seen, and it opened the door to that world to me. So I, a lot very Batman like, with the characters and the gadgets and the noir, but it was something that appealed to me. Like I even that year, or 91, whichever year it was, went dressed as Dick Tracy for Halloween.
I need evidence. Where's the photo of that?
I don't know but it was those old like trash bag costumes.
The cellophane almost kind of.
Yeah, and it was the plastic fedora. But luckily my dad actually had a yellow like sports coat.
Oh, nice.
And so I wore that. It made me curious about, that world. And it wasn't until later that I found out it was a comic book, although I kind of knew from the movie, but really no, I think I knew it more just like it was in the funnies, in the paper. But knowing that there was actual like books out there where you could read the stories and see where it all came from. And then just to continue that, then just a couple years later, when Disney releases The Rocketeer.
Oh wow!
And because I think with both Dick Tracy and The Rocketeer, it was that idea of these aren't super powered beings,
Correct. Yep.
but they're still superheroes.
Yep.
To a kid especially. And I remember with The Rocketeer, like trying to make my own rocket pack to play with in the backyard. I just make it out like 2-liter Coke bottles.
Just strapped to your back.
Yeah, just duct taped and get a little rope or something and just put them on my back. And I would just act like I was flying around. Probably put like a bicycle helmet on. But yeah, I mean, those are the type of characters that just there's something. And I think you and I especially have talked so much about Batman the animated series. It's that timelessness about the stories.
Really is. Yep.
But again, it's a regular guy becoming something bigger than himself and choosing to do good. And so, yeah, Dick Tracy, The Rocketeer. I know he's not a comic book, but I'll even throw in Robin Hood because Kevin Costner's Prince of Thieves came out, and that got me into like using bow and arrow. So yeah, it's that childhood wonder, and it reminds me why I love these stories. And so, yeah, so I'm thankful for, I'll just say all of them, Dick Tracy, The Rocketeer, and I'll throw Robin Hood in there. But
I think we'll allow it during this holiday season for you to throw him in there. Again, it's kind of blowing my mind how much on the same wavelength you and I seem to be, because I too have a very nostalgic comic book character, and this is one who wasn't on TV when I was a kid, but growing up, I watched a lot of this after reading a couple of the comic books, and that's Scooby-Doo. Like I'm a Scooby-Doo fanatic. If anybody knows me, they know I love like Halloween season, spooky season. Wife and I had a Halloween themed wedding. Laramy was gracious enough to come dressed up as Beetlejuice to that. So we love the spooky, and I do specifically. But Scooby-Doo, there is like this warm blanket feeling watching Scooby-Doo, or even still reading Scooby-Doo comics. Like I will still buy Scooby-Doo trades to read through in my downtime. And it's just I think there is the procedural aspect of it. Like I know what to expect. I know what's going to happen. And I find a lot of comfort in that. And I think just it got me started into horror. Like it's a small gateway into being into spooky and scary things, which coincidentally enough leads me into my next comic character, which is Swamp Thing. Like I could not be more thankful to have a character that is literally just a horror superhero, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him, and the depth that those stories and that character also allow. I don't know. I think I've talked about it before, but there's a recent run called Green Hell that is just a phenomenal, in my opinion, run. Obviously the Alan Moore Swamp Thing run is incredible.
Saga Swamp Thing.
It's just he's got so much story. I wish there was more. We've talked about that before. We wish there was more Swamp Thing. But no, those two, Scooby-Doo, again, bleeding into my interest in Swamp Thing. Just super, super grateful for both of them.
Yeah, and Swamp Thing's definitely one for me as well, because I grew up with the television series being one that I watched. Of course, The Incredible Hulk was in reruns. Wonder Woman was in reruns. Sure. But Swamp Thing was like, that was the show. Like USA Network. I even remember. Yeah. And watching it. And of course, there was the animated series, which you and I have talked about. Yep. And I had a couple of the toys, but yeah, then you read some of the Swamp Thing comics, and it's poetic in some cases.
Very much so.
It actually feels like you're reading literature. And yes, even though he was intended to be a horror character. There's just something a lot more deep and introspective about the Swamp Thing comics. So I'm definitely there with you. I'll wrap mine up by talking about one that I am thankful for because she helped my daughter get into comics, and that's Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel.
Very nice.
This is a wonderful character that I love, that it's a character who celebrates fandom. And so she shows that it is okay to be, a nerd.
Yeah.
It's what she grew up loving superheroes, and then when she becomes a superhero, it doesn't change who she is. Like, she's still awkward. She still has that optimistic look. She's so excited about it. And I loved when the Miss Marvel TV series came on Disney Plus. And my daughter, she had watched like the DC superhero girls when she was even smaller. But when Ruby saw Miss Marvel, there was a connection that was made. And it felt like that same connection that I had watching The Rocketeer and Dick Tracy. And so that meant a lot to me. 'Cause now it was a connection that her and I had, and we could talk more about it. She wanted to know more, and she's developed other fandoms with other characters and interested in more things. And so that is something that I will always be grateful for.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Kamala Khan.
To wrap mine up, again, we're teetering on the odd here because mine is also a family connection, and that's Spider-Man. That's my dad's favorite superhero. And the comic books I mentioned earlier, we would ride down to our local convenience store, and they had a comic book stand, and we'd always buy Spider-Man comics because that's what my dad is into. He loved Spider-Man ever since he was a kid, and still to this day is a big Spider-Man fan. And so we would buy those comics and read them together. And those are vivid memories for me of like the excitement of getting to go down to Tommy's gas station and buy our Spider-Man comic that week. So I'm super grateful and appreciative of all that Spider-Man has brought into my life, because you might say without my dad's interest in him, I may not have been interested in comic books at all from an early age. So thank you, Spidey.
Yeah, and again, there's some great connections with that. I know that many people out there are probably thinking either they're agreeing with us, kind of the same way you and I bounced off each other, or they're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I always loved, this character, that character, whether it be the Flash or Aquaman or Plastic Man. I actually have some very fond memories of Plastic Man as a kid.
Condiment King could be it for some people. Who knows?
There you go. Music Meister.
Oh,
just someone out there.
All righty.
But I just want to again thank everybody. I want to thank you, the listener. I'm thankful for you for listening to the show.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. This show may not have a huge audience, but I am very appreciative of the audience that it does have. And thank you guys for listening. And again, I do this for fun, and I'm glad that we can entertain those of you that are out there. And I thank all of my co-hosts. These are the folks who help me make this show better and help with these discussions, and makes, again, the whole thing more fun for me. So thank you to Tim Williams, who helped me get this started. Nicholas Pepin, who's been a big supporter. James Brooks, Jerry D, of course, Chad Smith, Justin Baker, and then with me here tonight, Blake Fowler. And of course, my own family, who's been there, Bethany, Ruby, and Lily, who've supported me with this and been on these episodes. I'm incredibly thankful to all of them. And, Bethany being my partner in life and co-host who, look, guys, there's not a lot of wives out there that will support something like this. And so, and not only does she support, but she's right here beside me on a lot of episodes, bringing a great perspective that I'm always grateful for. And then now also to include my girls. They make me proud. They make me laugh. They remind me why these stories matter. Because just like with any work of literature and art, it's a way to pass it on from one generation to the next. But yeah, any closing thoughts you have, Blake?
I don't know that that I could say anything much better. Yeah, I'm certainly thankful for the ability to be on these episodes with you, and I'm grateful to all those who listen and interact. Certainly appreciative and grateful for my wife Jordan, who, if those of you that don't know, I'm hearing impaired, so when we record these, I have no idea how loud I'm being. The odds are I'm shouting into this microphone, and she's being kept awake to some degree while we record. So just very grateful that she allows the time for me to do this with you. That she supports me in doing that. I just look forward to continue to getting some more in the can, as they say, and I'm grateful to be able to do so.
Well, have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy it with your family. You know, let them know who you're thankful for in their lives. Maybe thank the person who got you into comic books and the reason why you're listening to a podcast like this, because again, these characters, they play a huge role in our lives as fans. Me as a creator, and I'm sure several other people out there as a creator. So again, as Thanksgiving arrives, just want to say thank you to all of you out there, all of my family, all of my friends, and all of these characters who helped me become the person that I am. And thank you everyone who listens. For today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.